Welcome to Unplugged. I'm Phil Dobbie, and with me is James Reinders, who is the Chief Evangelist for Software Development Products for Intel. Heck of a job title. What does it all mean?
Well, I get to go and explain to software developers what Intel has to offer. We have more than just chips. We have products like compilers and libraries and analysis tools to help them in their jobs.
Right. So, I mean, when we think of Intel, we do think of chips, of course. So, what's the connection between chips and software?
Well, you know, I've always been fascinated at the connection between what tools are needed to take advantage of hardware. And for Intel, architects can design all sorts of great things into our microprocessors, the latest of which being more and more processor cores. But if the software doesn't take advantage of it, what use is the new design? So I like getting in and understanding what we can build in a chip and what we can do to help software developers use it. And the best thing in the world is when we build a chip and we know how to use it and have the tools to use it.
So a chip these days can perform multiple actions. It used to, in the olden days, could only do one thing, and a bit like a man. These days, more like a woman, a chip can do multiple things. Two times as many or four times? What's the magnitude?
Well, our latest processor, our Intel Core i7, which was known as Nehalem, actually has 4 cores in it, and each core can do 2 things at once. So our latest and greatest can do 8, and give us a few more months and we'll have ones that can do even more.
Right, so multitasking taken to an extreme.
Absolutely.
So I guess the issue is, and hence the connection with the software, if the software doesn't know that the chip can do that, then the software is just going to perform the way it always has done.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got multitasking operating systems and we can run multiple programs at once, but that only takes you so far, and now we're at the point where we're looking at how can I take one application and take advantage of the parallelism the chip can, and hopefully more and more programmers will figure out how to do that, and that's what I spend most of my time on these days, is helping with that issue and talking about the tools we have to help.
Right. So when a new chip comes out and is released, we've got software to match it. I guess that's so we get rid of those lags. So how quickly is this moving on? It's a pretty fast-moving technology, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So on the hardware side, we have the ability to double the number of transistors every couple of years in our microprocessors, and now most of that energy is going into adding more cores. So you can expect to see the number of cores rise quite a bit. I mean, it was only a few years ago that we came up with the first dual-core processor from Intel, and now we're at 4 cores, 6 cores. We'll have 8 very soon. So that's moving fast. On the software side, it differs a great deal between the different applications. On the server side, they're ready for the cores. Supercomputer users are ready. Scientific users are ready. On the more consumer-oriented side, we see early adoption in things like games or anything visual, but for other categories, it'll take more time.
Yeah, I guess because that's the software we're used to using, and we don't want to change that too often. I guess that's the problem.
We don't change it real often, and we go with the experiences we have too. So it takes time for people to learn new techniques, and most of us have spent our careers programming the processors you talked about earlier that do one thing at a time.
Yeah. So in your career, I mean, you must have been on a permanent learning curve. I mean, you're looking at new technology and new ways of doing things all the time.
Absolutely. I still remember professors in school telling me what their careers were like when they started and what they were like, when we were studying. And I thought, gosh, how can you bridge that gap? But in the couple of decades I've been working, I've certainly seen that. We've all seen that, right? Just every day there's something new to learn, and keeping up with that is a constant learning experience.
So I mean, and that's hard for one person to do, but when you're managing a group of people as well, how do you make sure everyone else is following this steep learning curve and making sure everyone's on the same page?
Wow, you just have to make sure that you continue to invest in it and create an atmosphere where you encourage that. I've been in different environments. Before I was at Intel, I was in environments that I don't think fostered that as much, and I've really enjoyed being at Intel because people seem to acknowledge that you need to have that constant learning and help each other with that. Get the opportunity to go to conferences if you want, at least once a year. We sometimes have brown bags where someone that's learned something we'll get our sack lunches together and sit around and talk about some conference someone went to and share and talk about ideas. That I really don't think you can have too much of that.
Right, and it helps, of course, if you've got a bunch of enthusiastic people who
Yes.
want to share that information. So, so does that say something about the type of people that the company is attracting?
Oh, absolutely. That's. I joined Intel almost 20 years ago, and I honestly thought I'd go work there for a few years and see, what I would do next. And if I had to pick one thing, the reason I stayed there, it's the people. Very ambitious, very energizing, right? You come to work and there's all these new ideas and people eagerly learning, and you get caught up in that.
It sounds like a good way of spending your day. So what about the people outside Intel? Because I guess a big part of your job, you're traveling the world talking to software developers. Do you see the same enthusiasm there?
Absolutely. I mean, not everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of different types of people in the world, but I get to have contact with people with equal enthusiasm. Always, the big difference I see is motivation, what people are after. I can come in saying, wow, it's really fun, let's go play with parallelism, let's go take advantage of 8 cores. And for most programmers, their job is not taking advantage of whatever Intel's just put out, it's getting a different job done, making their customers happy. So I enjoy trying to figure out that connection between what their enthusiasm is for and how our technology can get applied to that.
I remember my dad years ago gave me one piece of advice, which we've sort of touched on today. He said, as you go through life, just keep on learning. That's the moment you stop learning. That's when you just stop yourself dead in your tracks.
That sounds like great advice.
Which I've always tried to follow. Is there a similar piece of advice, or a piece of management advice, or general business advice that's really stuck in your mind?
Well, I think very similar to that. Life is too short. If you're not excited about what you're doing, go find something else to do. There's just so many things to do out there that it seems like a shame with everything that's going on if you don't feel like you're excited about coming into work each day, or, well, maybe not every day, but in general, when you look back on the year, you think, wow, look at what I learned, look at what I get done. If you're not in that sort of job, go find something else to do.
Yeah, and I guess everyone has to find their hole to fit into as well, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, James, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.